audio recording ain't never stopping.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Gettin Cheezy with Van and Jeezy. I'm Van.
And I'm Jeezy.
We got ourselves what I will call a groundbreaking, monumental episode this week. Something hot and fresh. We got Van, we got Jeezy, and we got Lil Bro Jeezy, a.k.a. Durrty Dan, on the call today.
Hello, everyone. Very nice to be on this episode this week.
This episode is the cheese is so hot, it's going to be like the cheese on the pizza that burns the roof of your mouth. You'll remember this one for a while.
But you're still going to bite into it every time. You can't wait.
So
Ain't
good.
got no time for that.
It's so good.
We brought Durrty Dan on the show because A, he's a big-time follower. B, we got some history going on. And C, rolling right into the new news section, he's a Cowboys fan. And speaking of the Cowboys, Jason Witten decides to come out of retirement this week and play for the Cowboys on a one-year, I believe, $3.6 million deal is what I saw. Something like that.
Before we dive into him getting back on the field, Durrty Dan, tell me, what was your feeling about his performance in the ESPN booth?
Oh, God. And this is hard for me to say because Jason Witten is not only my favorite tight end that I've ever watched play, he's my favorite NFL player. And actually, quick disclaimer, because I have been a Dallas fan all my life, the number 2 favorite player of all time, Donald Driver. A little tip back to the Packers fans here. But when I first heard that he was retiring, I was really sad about that. I was like, dang it. And then I heard he's coming back and he's going to be talking. And, we've got Romo in there talking. And those are my 2 favorite guys from Dallas. So I was all about it. And then I listened to him the first game. I was like, oh, no, this is horrible. I can't even listen to you talk, man.
I know that with Jason Witten being back playing football, Pro Bowl trophies everywhere are safe.
I wanted to say the same thing. I will never... I mean, when he ripped that trophy into pieces, I was like, #muscles. That's all I see when I see him, that dude just, I'm going to pull a trophy into pieces. Patrick Mahomes' face, his mouth is agape. His eyes are perfect circles. He is alarmed.
Alarmed and startled.
Honestly, I don't know a lot about the tight end situation in Dallas with Witten gone. What's going down? What's he bringing back to the field?
I think what he's really bringing back to the field is a lot more than just stats portray. That's the guy that we need for that leadership quality that we don't have right now in Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott. We just don't have a leader on the field.
You mean that Dak Prescott isn't your leader on the field?
Dak Prescott, I barely want him on the team, let alone on the field.
Oh my God. Dallas fans everywhere. I don't even know what they're doing right now. They're like breaking shit at the very least.
We them boys! We them boys! We them boys!
I
can tell you, I'm checking the news every hour, basically, to see if Romo's coming out of retirement, too.
That's a bit far. I think.
Yeah, Romo's back has been broken too many times. And when I say his back has been broken, we're talking his literal back has been broken.
Stark opposite of Jason Witten, he is awesome in the booth.
He is awesome in the booth. As grim of a Super Bowl as it was to watch, Tony Romo's commentary was definitely the highlight of the game.
They should definitely replace Troy Aikman and Joe Buck. I don't care if they
more Cowboy alum.
I don't care if they have to call one game live at the stadium and the other game via TV set at the same time. I don't give a shit. I don't want to hear Troy Aikman or Joe Buck's voices ever again.
They just FaceTime Romo in for all of Troy Aikman's games.
Troy Aikman's new job is to hold the phone with Tony Romo on it. Joe Buck is just standing in the corner somewhere.
He's got to get drinks for Aikman. You already know.
Aikman's going to get real tired holding that phone up with Tony Romo's face on it.
I feel like every time I watch games that Joe Buck and Troy Aikman call, I feel like Joe Buck's only job there is to just continually point out before Aikman talks that he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. It's like, hey, just so you know, just before you hear this guy talk a bunch of bullshit that you're about to hate, he is a Hall of Fame quarterback, so we had to let him on the show.
Why does Joe Buck have the credentials to do this? His voice just like nails on a fucking chalkboard.
I don't know. Maybe it's the hair plugs that gives him qualifications.
Ooh, that could be it. Yeah.
It's something else I wanted to say real quick in light of Jason Witten coming back is that DeMarcus Ware responded with a video on Twitter that says, so this is what we're doing now. And he's got this quote saying, I started thinking to myself, maybe I ought to call Romo and get him out of the booth, and all three of us come back. I mean, if DeMarcus Ware would come back to the NFL too, that's another great big name that, you get a lot of leadership as well from DeMarcus Ware and developing a defense there.
You see a picture of him? He looks so friendly. He's got the nicest smile. It's ridiculous. He doesn't look that scary. I mean, he's ripped, don't get me wrong, but like if I saw this dude walking down the street, I'd be like, oh, that's a really smiley, ripped dude over there.
If you get a chance to check out that video he posted, it's basically just him like smiling real big and saying like, so what do you guys think? Like, maybe I should come back to the NFL. And you would not think that he's the giant beast that he is on the field with how he talks and how he looks. Like you said, just a giant, smiley, happy guy.
I would say that's true only from the neck up. You see him from the neck down, the dude is a beast. He's cut.
Whenever I see him, I always think to myself, that's an incredibly shiny bald head.
Well, you got to take care of yourself. You got to look good.
So, okay, but DeMarcus Ware kept himself pretty clean, right? Like, he didn't really get into a whole lot of trouble from what I remember, like, off the field.
No, he was a very stand-up guy. He did a lot of like charity work as well with Witten and a lot of the Cowboys. He showed up to like children's hospitals and stuff like that. And he's always been just a general all-around good guy.
I just typed in DeMarcus Ware scandal. The number one hit on Google was DeMarcus Ware triumph through tragedy. Sounds pretty clean.
Yeah.
A guy that wasn't too clean. For the third consecutive year, David Irving will be suspended to start the season. I got an article here from sportsday.dallasnews.com saying that David Irving violated the NFL's substance abuse policy and is a soon-to-be free agent with the Cowboys, suspended indefinitely. So, Durrty Dan, what do you know about that situation? What do you think?
Once I first heard about this, I was like, I don't really even know who David Irving is. And the more that I looked into it, it's pretty obvious why. David Irving really hasn't played much for the past few years. He's been either suspended, he got hurt, he skipped the off-season program, he had a custody battle with his daughter. The reason why he's being suspended for violating the drug test is he didn't show up for the drug test, which, as I read, that counts as a dirty drug test to the NFL.
You can't fail the drug test if you don't show up to the drug test.
Wait a minute.
Yeah,
I don't think. Wait, hold up. That is not true. That is not true. You fail that's like the opposite of you miss every shot that you don't take. It's like that's like
for all the listeners, all four of you out there, I was pointing to my head like the meme.
That is true. Okay. To give Van credit, he was making a joke, but I missed it completely and dove on that grenade immediately.
And I mean, how many chances can you give a guy who's been suspended 4 times since being drafted in 2015? That's insane. That's crazy.
Well, I think you actually mixed up the other person that got suspended from Dallas. Irving, this is only his 3rd consecutive season that he's been suspended.
Only his 3rd consecutive season. No, you're right. Because I'm reading a line here in that article I mentioned earlier. Irving is the 2nd Cowboys player suspended this week. The league announced Tuesday that defensive end Randy Gregory is suspended indefinitely for also violating the NFL substance abuse policy. It is Gregory's 4th suspension since being drafted by the Cowboys in 2015. You guys over there, bunch of fucking criminals.
Am I to take this as like the drugs in Texas are just
bigger?
They're just bigger, and people see them so often. They're like, oh yeah, maybe for me.
Everything's bigger in Texas.
Are the drugs in Texas?
Don't mess with Texas! Don't mess with Texas! Don't mess with Texas!
We them boys.
That's right. Cowboys are totally done with David Irving. They're like, yeah, he's a free agent now. We don't really care about him. Ask us another question. Whereas on the other hand, with Randy Gregory, Garrett is totally like, yeah, he's being professional and he's trying to get help and he works hard and we want to get him back.
Randy Gregory?
That's Randy Gregory.
I have an article from TMZ right here.
Oh, I have it pulled up too. I've been waiting.
He's reportedly failed 7 or more drug tests. It's not trying it's not trying harder. It's not and on top of that, he's about to get evicted because he hasn't paid rent since like December. He owes like $15,000 in back rent. And when was this article dated? March 1st.
That's Friday.
And it said, this letter that TMZ apparently got a hold of demands that Gregory either pay the money he owes or, quote, vacate the premises within 1 day.
I like this kind of irrelevant line from TMZ. The home is pretty nice. 3,500 square feet, 3.5 bedrooms, with a bar, game room, and nice outdoor barbecue area. It's also located 1 mile from the Cowboys practice facility. And I was like, what is TMZ collecting Redfin affiliate links here? They're just gonna, now available, fresh to the market, new paint.
Just a convenient location to Cowboys practice stadium.
Looks really, picture the house looks nice.
Yeah, it looks way bigger than 3.5 bedroom. But I mean, we're not necessarily like a real estate show or anything. But you know, from what I know.
Wait, it doesn't say how many bedrooms. It says 3.5 bathrooms.
How many bathrooms you need? 3.5 bathrooms?
I assume that's 5 beds.
There's got to be 1 bathroom immediately inside the front door, 1 immediately inside the back door. Because when you got to come home and you got to shit real bad and you can't make it to the upstairs bathroom, that's 2 bathrooms.
That's 2. That's right off the top. That leaves us 1.5 bathrooms to divvy out.
That's right. You got the 1 bathroom off the master bedroom. That's easy. Okay, and maybe one of the front and back door bathrooms is a half bath, and the other bathroom somewhere is a guest bathroom.
Maybe there's 3 half baths. Maybe there's a toilet at the front and back, and another half upstairs somewhere.
There's two full baths and 3 half bathrooms. Seems excessive.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I don't know if you were his agent or representative, I don't know what you say to this. You'd be like, yeah, we're planning on passing that 8th drug test.
He's out.
Definitely out.
Indefinitely out. Get it right. Durrty Dan, we're going to sign you off the show here. Did you have fun?
Oh, I had a great time. It was lovely. Thanks for having me on, guys. You know, it was very interesting to be a part of it and give some opinions and see what people think.
That was Durrty Dan, everybody.
I'm cheesing my way back to you, babe, with some burning cheese in my mouth.
Packers news. Not really any news per se. But one thing I want to say off the top of my head here that I recall reading, the Packers GM, Brian Gutekunst, said that he wants the Packers to be involved in every and all free agent discussions, whether we're going to be partaking in said player or not. We talked in the past couple of weeks about Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell. Rest assured, the Packers have their noses in there.
Does that mean he's going to be dipping and dapping when he don't even know what's happening? Or will he be putting his fingers in a Kool-Aid and he don't even know the flavor? Or will it be a bunch of chips and cheese conversation and they see Brian Gutekunst and they'll be like, nachos? Are there going to be a bunch of people like, this is an A and B conversation, Brian Gutekunst, see your way out?
Before D jumps E and beats the F out of you, G. It's more, I think I wanted to bring it up more to point out that it's a stark contrast from previous.
Oh, Ted Thompson.
Ted Thompson was very conservative
in
free agency and more draft and develop. So more of a contrast thing that I wanted to bring up.
You don't have to be sorry, Van. I wasn't trying to make you feel bad. I was just trying
to say.
I'm
not sorry for anything. As a human being who I am, I'm a sorry person, but I'm not sorry about what I said.
Okay, that's fair. So what is happening in Packers news other than this passing glance?
Little birdies have told me, and when I say little birdies, I mean the internet has told me that we are not planning on re-signing Nick Perry, but the Packers are entertaining the idea of keeping Clay Matthews around. I've personally been feeling that Clay Matthews' production has been dropping off since about 2011, and Nick Perry just hasn't stayed on the field much. So I kind of wanted to evaluate those decisions. Is Nick Perry worth getting rid of? Is Clay Matthews worth keeping? And push comes to shove, who would you take moving forward?
From what I understand, we're going to drag our feet and see what the market will bear for Clay Matthews. So, and I think that's probably the right strategy at this point in his career, hit this point in his performance. I think Clay Matthews is important. He is a leader on the field. His career, honestly, if those 2 sacks weren't such bullshit calls early in the season where we got fucked out of a couple games, I think you could say he did have a disruptive season, even though it wasn't an all-pro season. Now, do I pay him $11.4 million? I don't think so. But do I pay him something to come back? I think we do.
I think the question is, how much of a pay cut would he be willing to take to stay in Green Bay? Because if you look at his stats from last year, he did lead the team with 11 quarterback hits, and he had 9 quarterback pressures, 1 forced fumble, and this is the disappointing one that kind of tips the scale for me, is only 41 tackles.
Yeah.
And while you're right that he did create some pressure with quarterback hits and all that, 3.5 sacks, 41 tackles just isn't the production we're used to out of Clay Matthews. When you look at a guy like a young Blake Martinez who had like 140 something tackles.
Yeah, it was a tremendous amount.
And so Father Time is definitely starting to hit Clay Matthews. He can still play.
He can. He's just getting a little older. He's lost a step maybe. That's probably still a first-tier player, I would say.
For a long time, Clay Matthews was my favorite player because he played with so much energy and so much fire, and he was in every single play. And I think it was, got to be like 2011, 2013, something like that, where he started out the first 3 games of the season with 3 sacks each. I was like, oh my God, he's on pace to get about 1 million sacks this year.
Do you think he finds someone to pay him this $11.4 million or maybe even more out there? I mean, there's a lot of rich teams out there. I'm looking at you, San Francisco. I mean, there's a lot.
San Francisco?
They've got, I mean, I'm not saying they need him. I'm just saying they have a lot of cap space right now.
Well, yeah, because they fucking suck.
Yeah, they do suck. I'm just saying. I'm not saying they're going to get him. I'm just saying there's teams out there with a lot of cap space.
If you have all that cap space, you can try and string Clay Matthews along for a while, the next year or two maybe, as he's on the back 9 of his career. Or you can take that money and invest it in a younger guy who's got a higher ceiling than Clay Matthews does at this point.
I'm not saying the 49ers in particular. I'm just saying there are teams out there with plenty enough money to do this.
So I asked the question at the beginning of the segment, who would you pick, Clay Matthews or Nick Perry? And I honestly don't remember seeing Nick Perry on the field at all last year.
It was sparse. It definitely was sparse.
He's been very injury prone the last couple of years. He also had a club on for a while, but when he was healthy, he was definitely a force to be reckoned with, but I just don't remember seeing him play.
Yeah, me neither. If I'm going to take one of them, I would definitely take Clay. For better or for worse, he's been pretty healthy, pretty reliable. He's been consistently doing what he's been doing for the last few years, and I think we could expect him to at least do that much, if not more, next year.
The Nick Perry situation reminds me of Randall Cobb's situation right now, where he's shown in the past that he's a good player, but injuries have kept him off of the field to the point where you just don't know anymore.
Yeah. Randall Cobb's, though, I will say, has very endearing eyes.
He does.
I'm just saying, if I had to negotiate with Randall Cobb, I'd prefer not to do it face-to-face because I'd see those eyes, and I'd be like, whatever you want, Randall. When he looks, it looks like he's really paying close attention, and then those eyes, they're so piercing. I'm just like, whatever you want, Randall. We'll pay whatever you want.
Let's take a blank mannequin, and let's put Randall Cobb's eyes, David Bakhtiari's skin, and then Clay Matthews' hair on it. Do we have the perfect human face?
I'm going to hold out judgment until you can mock this up for me.
I'm not going to go cutting people's faces off and tearing their eyeballs out.
I don't want you to do it in real life. I meant digitally.
That's just going to look like a fucking monster.
Van, you know what time it is. I've been sitting over here getting excited. Oh, shit. What was that? Where is she?
You got to be on your toes, homie.
I got scared.
That shit flying out of everywhere. It's Gossip Girl section.
So what we got coming down the tubes this week?
Fucking Robert Kraft. This week comes out that one of the days he was caught was right before the AFC Championship game, 10-11 in the morning, when they played at, 3 in the afternoon, something like that.
Yeah, something just like that. It's just another reminder of how humans can be very disappointing. Robert Kraft, shame on you.
It gets worse, though, Jeezy. Before we can start dumping on him for real, it gets worse. Article from USAtoday.com pulled up right here. Robert Kraft is a man who gave money to nonprofits that help women who have survived sex trafficking. Robert Kraft has donated more than $400 million over the past 5 decades to various philanthropic organizations. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say.
I'm looking at this article, the same one from Joey Garrison on USA Today, and it's just like over and over. It's like $100,000 to My Life, My Choice. That's an organization focused on ending commercial sexual exploitation and ending the buying and selling of human beings. They've got all of these people, these awesome people doing awesome work. And it puts them in a bind because they're saying one thing, which is, we're focused on our mission, but also we're keeping an eye on this because we don't want to be in a position where we're taking money from someone who's doing this. This is a quote from one of the people. We're heartbroken by the allegations about Robert Kraft. The New England Patriots Charitable Foundation has supported My Life, My Choice in the past. We will await additional information before commenting further.
But what additional information? The NFL said the same thing. We're continuing to monitor the police investigation. There's video footage of him going into the day spa, giving $79 on 2 occasions. What additional information does there need to be?
Just to take it one step further, I found an article from the Business Insider here, written by Scott Davis. If Kraft is found guilty, the NFL may come down hard on Kraft, fining him $500,000, which is the maximum amount, plus handing out a multi-week suspension. And then it further says the NFL is limited in how much it can punish Kraft because the issue does not involve football matters.
They did the same thing to the Colts owner. I forget who it was. Had a bunch of drugs or whatever. They did the same thing to him. They fined him $500 million, suspended him for a couple weeks.
Well, 500,000.
Fined. I'm sorry, 500,000.
500 million would be some crazy shit right there. Can you imagine?
That's more warranted than $500,000. $500,000 for a $6 billion man. That's like a Taco Bell value meal for you and I.
Let's just say it's 6 billion, right? That's half of a million. You're right. Fuck, you are absolutely right. I was thinking that's half of a billion, but 500,000 is not half of a billion. Indeed, it's only half of a million, of which he has 6,000 of.
So this is 1/12,000th of his worth.
Yeah, you're right.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
That's crazy. That's the most they can do. The Patriots organization should take it upon themselves to impose some fines and things, but I guess it's difficult for them to do because he owns them. Like you said, we talked about at length last week, it's hard in this system for someone with so much power to be appropriately disciplined.
Right. There's one more point here that I think I'd like to quote. Some think that Kraft could also donate to an NFL-led initiative against human trafficking and that it might affect his Hall of Fame credentials.
It better. Dude, in baseball, if Pete Rose still isn't in the Hall of Fame for gambling, how the fuck is Robert Kraft going to be in the NFL Hall of Fame with prostitutes and sex trafficking?
I have to agree. This has to affect his Hall of Fame. The quote is, it might affect, but I think it should absolutely affect that. And he should be basically providing the cash backing for an NFL-led initiative against this type of abuse. Those things would be kind of no-brainers to me. Obviously, the NFL, as far as I understand, can't force him to do that. I think they can't force also him to be kept out of the Hall of Fame, but I would think that they should use all of their influence to make that the case. Absolutely agreed.
But I would like to switch over to a topic that's a little bit more fun, a little more cheesy, something that I wasn't aware of, but Jeezy, you found it, and I need to partake in all of it. It's called Coach Snoop.
Netflix original Coach Snoop. Me and Mrs. Jeezy, we were laying down trying to look for a show to watch on a Friday evening. So I'm just thumbing through, and what did I stumble upon? None other than Coach Snoop. Let me read the synopsis direct from Netflix. Fueled by his own rough upbringing, Snoop Dogg creates a youth football league to keep at-risk kids off the streets and focused on their goals. The show is pretty wild. I mean, it's pretty cool. They go and play a game down in Texas, and Snoop and his little head coach guy who's there, they're on the sidelines dropping F-bombs and dropping N-bombs, dropping all of it. And
so are they smoking weed on the sidelines in front of these kids?
Snoop does say during the show, he's not changed his lifestyle, but he doesn't want to expose these young kids to his active use of drugs and alcohol, which I think is very important for him to say. So they go out there and they have these jerseys that are they're so tight. I mean, I don't know if it's even right to say that they're tight, but it's like they have jerseys that they look like just $100 bills everywhere. It says something like on the front of their jersey, "Money Boys," and it's like it's pretty tight. So he's focusing on kids who grew up in the same rough neighborhoods. He's taking a special interest in these kids because they grew up where he grew up. And there was one clip that I remember very distinctly where he goes up, one of the kids is having a hard day, and he goes, goes up, talks to him, and he says, little buddy, Coach Snoop needs to talk to you. I know your family's on hard times. I don't want you to keep this just between me and you. I want you to be able to focus on your schoolwork and our team here. I'm going to take care of you and your family's rent for the next 6 months. And that's just between you and Coach Snoop. And he tells them, I want you to keep working hard. I want you to keep trying hard out here on the field, and you're going to see it's going to pay off.
Good on you, Snoop Dogg.
That's what I said. I mean,
that's wonderful. That's wonderful. I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty tight. So, I mean, really what it is, I think, more is just it's supposed to make you feel good and remember that no matter where you came from, you got a chance to give back and help your community just be a little bit better. And Snoop felt that football was one way that he could help young people stay out of trouble and have something good to focus on. So having an opportunity to play and build some of the skills of teamwork and leadership and just working hard is good. I applaud Coach Snoop on that, and we'll have to see if there's a second season. I might try and pick up a couple more episodes here.
Good on you, Snoop. I love it. I'm gonna watch it. I love it. I'm gonna watch it.
You're gonna watch it? You should.
Oh, fuck yeah, I'm gonna watch it. Hell yeah.
Get a couple episodes. We come back to this. I guess it's time to flip that cheese on over, isn't it?
This week, our interesting take is a little bit more commenting on, we'll say, the future of football and how things are going. And so I want to jump to one of these right here, where this article I've got from CNN. Pop Warner Football is banning the traditional three-point stance. Their concern is that the three-point stance lowers players' heads, makes collisions more violent between offensive and defensive linemen, and that this change, eliminating the three-point stance, will lessen the amount of force between linemen, and they expect that it will cut down on unintentional helmet contact at the line.
The quote from John Butler here, who's an executive director at Pop Warner, is, "We believe this change is another step in creating a safer, better football experience for young people. We are changing how players are introduced to the sport and how they learn to play the game. We're also setting the stage for our higher levels of play to adopt the change."
It is to be eliminated in the Tiny Mite, Mighty Mite, and Junior Pee Wee leagues. Now, I played offensive line, defensive line for 10 years of my life.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you, eliminating the three-point stance will make collisions more violent on the line. It's the exact opposite of what they're trying to do.
You really think so? You really think this doesn't help?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The defensive lineman is running in full tilt at the guy. Let's take a tackle, for instance. A tackle taking on an edge rusher. There's way more speed involved in that than there would be if that player was in a three-point stance.
I've got to disagree, Van. Come on, think about this. How does a sprinter in the Olympics start their race? They actually use genuinely a 4-point stance. Why? Because it gives them more explosion. I just have to disagree just on a straight physics reason. The point is to get your weight forward so that you just have an explosion as you are getting your balance back. You're expecting to collide with somebody else, because otherwise the 3-point stance, if you push off, the reason to do that is because you're expecting to collide and you want that lower center of gravity, you want that extra force, you want to be able to move somebody. I have to disagree.
The difference is that when both players are in the 3-point stance, they're about 3 feet or less away from each other. That's not enough time. You can't get that velocity up fast enough to make enough energy. Whereas if you've got a player who's on his 2 feet standing up and rushing, because he's going to be a little bit further back off the line, he's got an inherent advantage to be able to run faster at the offensive lineman.
I don't see that people are going to play off the line. The only reason that the edge rusher thing works is because it creates mismatches where people come in and they're not exactly planned or blocked. There's generally kind of a matchup there. There's no, the edge rusher hits are so violent because they're picked up by fullbacks and running backs, and sometimes a lineman will come off the edge and try and block them. But if every single player is standing up, I don't think anything changes about the edge rusher. I still think that's a violent part of it.
They're trying to solve the wrong thing. I can tell you in my 10 years of playing football, I never once got popped as an offensive or defensive lineman at the line and went like, man, that was rung my bell. Never. You know how many times I got my bell rung when someone came at me full sprint and I was standing there? A bunch.
I'm just saying, I think the velocity will be lower. You don't have that same kind of takeoff. If you take the exact same distance, if you start in a 3-point stance versus standing.
But you're not unabated running, though. That's the thing, is you're not unabated running.
Why would they be unabated just because they're on 2 feet?
The offensive lineman is putting his hands out to block you. You're putting your hands out to knock the offensive lineman's hands away. You're not running at each other, exploding 3-point stance or 2-point stance, helmet to helmet. When you are in a three-point stance, it actually slows things down a little bit because you have to get from your three-point stance, stand up a little bit, get your hands up. There's a technique to getting out of your three-point stance. It's more complicated than you think it is.
I'm just saying, when you start in a three-point stance, you got more of a jump. That acceleration is higher. That's why they do it in the Olympics to run. It's just the acceleration is higher. If nobody touched you...
But it's not an unabated run. That's the thing.
Why would it be unabated because they're standing? There's nothing about standing that makes it now an unabated run.
Using the example that Olympic runners use a stance to take off and go faster, it's because they're running in a straight line. They're not doing anything. No one's trying to impede their traffic of running. They're just fucking running. Okay.
It's the explosion. It's the acceleration. I mean, once you reach speed, it's just about maintaining it. This is about getting from not moving to moving as fast as possible.
Why don't we have wide receivers then in three-point stances? If you get more explosion out of that, why aren't wide receivers in three-point stances so they can take off faster?
Because they have to be able to change direction, which is what standing allows you to do.
So do linemen!
Van, you make contact instantly. You change direction after that first step.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not saying that there's not plays where they don't...
The offensive line position is much more complicated than you're making it seem to be.
Okay, there's pass and rush. I get it. Okay, so you stand and you go back for a pass. You push forward.
There's intricacies to all those things, though, too.
Of course there is. Some of those plays, you're absolutely right. They go from a three-point stance to basically standing anyway. But some of those, the plays that we're trying to eliminate is when somebody goes from a three-point stance full into the person in front of them before they try to make any redirection. That's what we're trying to eliminate here, and I think this works.
But they're not hitting helmet to helmet. They're trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. That's what I'm trying to say.
I have to disagree. This is a repeated force injury they're trying to reduce.
I would like to see a stat of how many offensive and defensive linemen have CTE. Because I've heard stories of quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, linebackers, but I've not yet heard one of a lineman with CTE.
It's a big question. I don't know. When I look at it, I think this is a good thing to do to make the game safer, especially for the young people that are playing this game.
I just think that the resources spent towards making that rule change, could have been better spent towards making a rule change that actually addresses a concern versus a non-issue.
So you're saying changing a rule was a tremendous expense?
Pop Warner is a nationwide program. You don't just boop, done. It's a nationwide program.
Right, but there's still a central governing body. I'm sure a bunch of people came in and weighed in on it.
Now your coach have to teach a new technique to the kids. These kids are brought up watching football at a young age. They all see everybody down in the three-point stances. Now you have to unteach that to 5 and 7-year-olds.
Look, you don't unteach anything to 5 or 7-year-olds. 5 or 7-year-olds don't know anything. They're going to
Have you tried to teach a 5 or 7-year-old?
Come on, man. You know how many nieces and nephews I got. Don't go down the Jeezy rabbit hole on this. I'm telling you, you don't have to unteach 5 and 7-year-olds a three-point stance. You have to unteach them how to cuss sometimes. You have to unteach them to hit people. You don't have to unteach them a three-point stance. I was licking my chops over this one. I knew we were going to disagree, and I think it's fine. I think it's perfectly fine that we make the game safer for young people.
I'm good with making the game safer for young people, but this doesn't make the game safer. It does nothing. In my opinion, it actually does the opposite.
We're just going to have to disagree and still love each other.
We can still love each other.
All right. Then we still love each other.
I'd like to move on to a story, though, that breaks down barriers. A woman named Tony Harris has been awarded football's first female scholarship for a skilled position player, going to Central Methodist University.
I think it's cool that her first name is Antoinette. I don't know anybody else alive named Antoinette, I don't think.
I don't either. This article from Forbes.com, overcoming odds story, too. She had ovarian cancer, lost half her body weight as a teenager.
It's an incredible story, really. But she's playing free safety.
Yeah, she is. I will say that I did watch the highlight tape they put together for her, and I was like, okay, you probably could have picked some better plays that showed more oomph. It was not a flattering highlight reel. It was kind of like okay.
You got to remember where she went. She went to Central Methodist. This is not D1 ball, to begin with. So the people producing this are not going to be the same level like if you're promoting a D1 player. She's going to Central Methodist University, which is an NAIA school located in Fayette, Missouri. I think it's tremendous. Someone who's come back 22 years old, already faced ovarian cancer, is the first one to get this type of scholarship for this type of position. It's a damn shame, because we've been trying to find some positive stories about the future of football, and this one I think is amazing. But we just need more sparks like Tony Harris into what the future of football can be. What are the bright spots for what this game can do? You know, this game brought her a scholarship at a school that could lead to, you know, it's hard to know where it could lead, but it gives her a lot of opportunities. And, you know, that's because of this game of football.
Only 5'7", 164 pounds, and she had been playing at East Los Angeles Community College prior to this. Good for her.
I was really impressed with this, a quote from the Forbes article by Jeff Arnold. Harris chose Central Methodist over 6 other suitors, all of which were offering scholarships. While Harris hopes to eventually reach the NFL, taking the latest step toward her dream just required an opportunity and someone to give her the chance.
I think that's a great note to send the show off on.
Tony Harris, we're rooting for you. Hopefully we'll stumble across some more news about you. But for now, you've been listening to Gettin Cheezy with Van and Jeezy.
I'm Van.
And I'm Jeezy.
As always, be sure to check us out on iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, Facebook, SoundCloud.
CheezyPodcast.com.
Subscribe, get the newest updates on demand on your phone. Recommend us to your family, your friends, everybody.
Special thanks, shout out to Lil Bro Jeezy, a.k.a. Durrty Dan. Loved having you on. Hope to have you back sometime.
For sure. We'll have to bring him back during the season. Make for a great show.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Peace.